you want to lead for a long time, you need to think about your leadership like a reservoir. When it's full, you can draw from it and lead with clarity and energy and joy for a long time. But if you never refill the reservoir, all you have left to give is dust. And too many leaders are trying to run on dust and wondering why they feel exhausted and unmotivated and disconnected, and why your team feels the same. I worked with a leader one time who was brilliant at output, meetings, projects, strategies, people, always pouring out. Like when I asked what fills you back up, and she just kind of blinked at me and stared. She didn't really have an answer. And that's when I knew we weren't dealing with a skills gap. We were dealing with the ability to refill the joy reservoir. So if you are new here, welcome to the Joyosity Podcast. I'm so glad you found your way to this corner of leadership and life where joy is in the center, and we are designing life and work for joy. I'm Jenn Whitmer, international keynote speaker, leadership consultant, and all-around joy bringer. And if you are not new here, you're jumping back in, I'm so glad. Thank you. This fall, we are continuing our series inspired by my upcoming book, Joyosity: How to Cultivate Intense Happiness in Work and Life, even if things are what they are. And around here, we're not settling for toxicity. We are not okay with consistent overwhelm or the exhaustion of it's all just too much. So we're walking out of that with each episode. So I'm going to bring you stories and research and tools that you can use right away to create a joyful life and a thriving workplace. And we're starting with you. So this leader that I was coaching, the antithesis of lazy. Like, she was dedicated, talented, deeply invested in her people, but she never replenished what I would call the joy tank. And she was constantly running on fumes. And the joy tank isn't just things that make you happy. And so she would do things like, well, a vacation is going to fix it, or maybe a couple days of us sleep, or if I just can get to this at the end of this project, then I can refill, I can rest. But because she didn't have consistent, sustaining practices, her energy just continued to drain faster than she could refill it, because a one-time recharge or an every 6-month recharge isn't enough. That's not enough to keep you healthy, let alone joyful, because you can't keep giving out without ever filling up. We know that logically. If I tried to refill or drink from my water bottle without putting water in it, we know that logically. But somehow we think that doesn't apply to us. You have got to refill your reservoir daily. You've got to refill it daily, and sometimes even more frequently. Motivation and hustle are going to drain you dry. You're like, I just got to keep motivated. It's not enough. I just have to keep going, and I got to hustle until this. It's going to deplete you. You can't sustain your leadership by sheer willpower. It will fail you every time. And it's because you are a human being. There is this lie in our productivity focused culture that says you don't have to be human. You just got to keep moving. We put people as economic units, or we put people as, 0.75 FTE full-time employee. Like we start to make people products. You are not a product. You are not a robot. You are a human being, and you can't create a culture of joy and thriving and even productive culture from a place of your own depletion. It's just impossible. And without these energy filling practices, joy becomes, just a wish out there instead of the thing that actually helps sustain you. Because when your reservoir runs dry, that all you got to give is dust. That's all you've got. And I absolutely don't want that for you. So if we look into some research, it shows that there are lots of specific practices that if you do them consistently over time, they will reduce anxiety, they improve sleep, and they increase your overall well-being. I'm not saying these practices are suddenly going to, make you a healthy weight, lower your blood pressure completely, get rid of all your statins, and you're just going to walk around on cloud nine. That is not what they do. But these consistent practices over time do start to come out into health outcomes. You will notice that you have fewer moments of anxiety. You will notice that you feel better more of the time. In the first episode of the season, in episode 102, I believe, we talked about the joy ratio. These are practices that help you stay in the joy ratio, which is 35% of your time in things that you enjoy, things that bring you connection. You can go back and listen to that episode. 10% of the time is toil, 55% is the other stuff, the messy middle. A lot of these practices show up in the messy middle, but they keep that middle manageable and the toil down to 10, so you actually have more joy. And over time, you will start to put them into the 35% of what brings you joy. So these practices will reduce the things that you don't want, the negative outcomes of anxiety and depression, and will increase your well-being and health, along with your productivity. Because leaders who intentionally over time refill their energy have teams that are more engaged and creative and actually loyal. It improves your retention. It's because, again, back to your body and neuroscience. So this whole section of experience is how you experience your daily life. And without replenishing, after you've closed the stress cycle, the stress chemicals will continue to dominate your body, and that's going to drain you dry. You've got to have regular practices that are sustainable, that help you approach your daily life without living at the top of your stress. You have to have these daily places to empty, these daily practices, and weekly and monthly and annually. We'll talk about that in the next episode. But you've got to have practices that help you restore and fill your reservoir of energy and of joy. So I'm going to pause here for just a moment, because my new book, How to Cultivate Intense Happiness in Work and Life, Joyosity, is coming in just a few weeks. And I am honored that Jenny Evans, who is a resilience expert, a fellow speaker, and the author of Resiliency Revolution, has endorsed the book. And she's taught thousands of leaders how to create energy and resilience in high pressure environments. And I am so thrilled that she sees the value and recognizes that Joyosity is achieving that goal as well. So you can get the book right now at jennwhitmer.com/books. And you can join the Joyosity Very Important Party while you're there, which gets sneak peeks and special early access. And there's a link in the show notes, but it's jennwhitmer.com/books. And if we jump back into practices, I want to talk about how you create these practices and what they look like. And first of all, I like to define the word practice, because practice can feel really slippery, like a little woo-woo, like what is that if I'm practicing this? And it also feels almost incompetent, because we don't like amateurs in our professional culture. We're professionals. Teachers practice, lawyers practice, physicians practice. It is a practice. So you can have a professional practice. Rick Rubin, who is a creative producer of a million people that are amazing, but he says that a practice is an embodiment, which means you're putting it into your body and into your life. It's an embodiment of an approach to a concept. Enneagram teacher Peter Haranahan puts it even more simply. A practice is anything you do with intention and breath. Anything you do with intention and breath. So practices, I think, are these tiny intentional actions applied inside your real life. Your real walking around life while you're getting coffee, you're sending emails, or running carpool. Practices apply these concepts in that way. So you need 3 types of practices to protect and refill your joy tank. There are 3 of them. Number 1 is space. My kids were all dancers. They all danced. A couple of them danced from 3 all the way through high school, and one is dancing in college. And I loved watching them tap. That was actually my favorite. And especially when my older middles, Stuart and Sabrina, tapped in high school. Miss Amanda was their teacher, and she explained once that the magic and the thrill of tap as an audience member isn't actually when the shoe hits the floor. When the tap slaps the floor, that's not it. It's the space between the taps. So every beat has this space in it where you can take a moment of breath. If you don't, as the dancer, you're kind of gasping. And as an audience member, it starts to feel like cacophony. It's the space that makes the dance work. And that's you too. Space in your life protects you from turning your life into cacophony. So you need practices that create space. The second thing is you need practices that create safety. And safety is telling your body, with your body, that it's okay to be here. It's okay for your soul to come out for a moment. And these practices lean into deeper practices of creating wholeness. And sometimes, if you're not used to being safe in your body, it can feel scary or even a little panicky. But these practices that reinforce your safety, slowing down, breathing, teaching your nervous system that you are safe. Some of them are tied to your Enneagram type. I talk about that in the book, and give you other practices that create safety in your regular everyday life. Because you need places in your real life that feel safe to say, it's okay. It's okay to come out. And then the third kind of practices you need are support. You don't just want to be empty. Space lets you empty out. Safety lets you said it's okay to come out, but you also have things that need to fill you up. Empty isn't the goal. Full is. You need practices that nourish and sustain you. And these aren't luxuries. They are fuel for you. They are things that fill you up. And they are, if I dare say it, things that love your own self. They love your body. They are practices that love your neurobiology, things that support you in your body, which is the thing that you use to get your work done, because nobody's working by telepathy. And if you are, we need to talk, because that's just not happening, right? Like, that's just not real. I want to know. While yes, you use your brain all day, your body is how you get things done. So you've got to have things that support your neurobiology, that help you practice emotional regulation, that help you be more creative and productive. You've got to practice that. When you practice and you cultivate these practices that help you have space, they help you bring safety and support, you are protecting and filling your joy reservoir. You don't just survive leadership. You're not just pouring out dust. You're actually sustaining it and pouring out of the overflow of your own full joy. That's amazing. And in the book, I give you an entire menu of practices. And in the playbook, there are even more. So you can pick and choose the ones that apply to your life stage, to your job, to your personality type. All of those things are in the Joyosity book and the accompanying playbook. Next week, we're going to talk about how you build these steady structures. So you do these practices, especially when your want to disappears, because my want to disappears more often than I would like. These vacations are great. I want you to have a weekend off. You need more than that. You need practices that are daily, that create that space, that create the support and the safety that you need. Otherwise, you're just draining yourself dry. So if I put my coach hat on for just a moment, and I want you to just breathe and ask yourself, where are you leading from? Are you leading from full? Are you leading from half full, quarter tank? Are you leading from the dregs of your reservoir? If you're not sure, I would love to hop on the phone with you. 15 minutes on the phone. It's called a Spark Call. It's at jennwhitmer.com/spark-call. It'll be in the show notes, but Jenn with 2 N's, whitmer.com/spark-call. And I would love for you to share this episode with anybody who needs to fill up too, because part of support is caring for one another. That fills your joy tank. It's called pebbling. You send the funny meme. You send this thing that says, this is helpful for you. Send this to somebody who needs it too. Check the show notes for all the links. I would love to connect with you. If you would share this on LinkedIn or Instagram, please tag me at Jenn_Whitmer. Drop me an email with your questions, Jenn with 2 N's at jennwhitmer.com. I want to hear how this goes for you. Practices as a leader can seem real slippery, but they are the very thing that hold you up. They're these tiny things that stay with you in your daily life that sustain your leadership and sustain your joy. So I am grateful that you are here. I know you've got a lot of choices and that you are choosing to spend time with the Joyosity Podcast. I'm never going to take for granted. If you would rate and subscribe, it helps more leaders join us in this movement of creating positive culture with complex people. So work is a joy, people are whole, and organizations flourish. And I want to leave you with this idea. Protecting your joy. Protecting your joy requires practices that are going to fill you up, not drain you dry. You can't be all output. You've got to have things that put into you.